Hello, from me and my plant that I've neglected to take proper care of for so long. I have had this pothos plant since 2020. This was like one of the first 2020 plants I bought when I decided plants were gonna be my thing because I was writing my third book, Delicious Monsters, or I was working on it, doing edits on it, and the main character is like obsessed with plants and taking care of plants, and I was like, I should buy plants. And this was one of the first plants I bought. It was shipped to me, so I bought it from Toronto. They shipped it up north to me, and it was a large plant, and I've been taking care of it this whole time, and it's been draped all over my office. It makes it very dramatic, but I've not been great really at taking care of it and nurturing it, and so it has all of these just empty nodes, and I was like, let me untangle these and I can see which nodes are empty and which ones aren't, and I can do whatever. And I just looking at the pot. Let me show you the pot. Look at how empty and sad the actual pot is. And I did this thing where with some of my other pothos where I propagated the plant, and then I went to fill in the actual soil after so that it could grow more full. And I think with this one, because there's so much, I've been so I don't want to cut it back, but I tried planting them in the front, and I think it's just it's a very large pot, and so it's also just hard for me to make sure to get enough water. But I made a solemn vow to myself to be better with my plants, and so I set a reminder to make sure that I'm watering them regularly, because my watering system currently is that I wait to see if the plants look droopy and then I water them. And yeah, it's not a feasible system. So I think what I'm going to do very dramatically is I'm just gonna cut it all off. I'm gonna cut it all off, and all the stuff that has good leaves, I'm just gonna propagate it. I'm just gonna have friggin' 20 jars of propagating leaves, and then when they grow roots, I can try and kind of start it fresh. But yeah, I kind of think that's the way to go. Also because trying to untangle this is making me upset. And there's just there's so many naked nodes. Look at something like this. This is how all of them are, where it's so much of it is naked because I didn't take proper care of it, and the leaves got yellow or brown or whatever, and so then I ripped them off. And so they're just they're not full, they're very naked. Draping it over my office honestly isn't helping because it's just it's not reaching light in certain places, and it looks so skeletal and sad, but the end is a little bit more full. Anyway, I'm just gonna cut them. I'm gonna propagate all of them. So that's what I'm doing. This is the start of the vlog. I realized partway through my plant rant that this was the start of the vlog. So yeah, hello. I'm Liselle Sambury. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things writing, traditional publishing, and a little bit of reading, and apparently plants, because here I am. It's just it's so impressive, and so I'm so pained to cut it, but I just know it's going to be better. It's going to be better in the end. This is a trust the process moment. And if I ruin my best pothos, then I ruined it. You know, plants grow. And that's the thing. All of these leaves that are good, I'm saving. And I'm gonna put them, I got my little propagation jars going. I'm gonna put them in nice little jars, and I'm gonna take care of them. So they're still gonna live. They're not gonna die out here. I'm not killing well, I've killed some plants, but I'm trying not to kill these ones. Anyway, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna stop talking about plants. hello, we should probably talk about writing and like books and stuff. So it is July. And I am working on plotting the second book in my new YA Dark Academia series, starting with the book A Mastery of Monsters, which is coming out June 3rd, 2025. I really should probably think of a trilogy name, and I haven't. But I was like, I probably need to make a trilogy name so I can like refer to it collectively. I didn't even make a proper name for my first series, the Blood Like Magic series. My publisher ended up calling it the Blood Like Duology, but I was like, I didn't try. I don't know. I was thinking of like This Monstrous Trio, but maybe that's a little low-hanging fruit. Like maybe I didn't try enough. So I don't know, I'm gonna figure it out. But anyway, I'm working on plotting it, and I have to finish plotting this month. In June, I let myself take it easy because honestly, I was tired. I had a lot of summer malaise going on, and I didn't want to work, and I didn't want to do anything except for couch rot. And so I let myself take it easy, and I can't do that. I really do need to, like this month, I need to finish plotting. It needs to get done. There's no more there can be no more. So I did a new schedule for myself, like a very nice, the strict Notion schedule that I usually use to get my work done. So I made one of those for myself, and I've been following it well so far. I'm just like planning out all of the chapters in a more concrete way, basically saying this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, and I'm trying to be more concrete with everything. Basically what I have right now is like rough drafts of a lot of stuff, and I need to get polished drafts of things. I really need to like nail down what this is gonna be, but it is getting a little bit more challenging. Like I can already tell that I don't have enough chapters, which means that my first draft needs to be longer than 100,000 words. It probably needs to be I want to say 120,000 words, which means I'll need to be more succinct when me and my editor get together so that it doesn't end up being, I don't really want it to be longer than the first book. I want it to be around the same amount of words. So the first book is like 156,000 words. So I want to keep in that 156,000 words bracket. I don't really want to do the thing where like the first book is one size and then the next books just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't really want to do that. That's why I wanted 3 books, to make sure that they could be a little bit more equivalent. And so that's what I'm aiming for. But I think this first draft, I just know there's so many different things I have to put in. And I've pretty much put in like the absolute necessary stuff for chapters, but I also need like the fun stuff for chapters. And I don't have a ton of that so far. Like I have one like St. Patrick's Day chapter, because like when you're in university and you're going to school, like I find St. Patrick's Day becomes like a bigger thing. So I wanted to put that in. I also want to put in like a little bit more stuff about classes, like, you know, so we're properly getting the Dark Academia theme. So yeah, I just know there's like a lot more things that I need to put in. So I am working on that. But yeah, I'm trying to really solidify and get like a very concrete plan for myself so that I can solidify this, and like by the end of July I need to be able to jump into drafting. Of course I was going to take like a week break before I start drafting, but it needs to get done. So that's where I'm at. I've only done, you know, like a couple days of work so far, but I feel like I'm managing it. I still kind of have the summer malaise. I kind of don't want to do anything, but the time is over. I had a month to be wishy-washy, and now I have to get stuff done whether I like it or not. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I know you saw me with this giant plant, and so it looks like I wasn't working. Here's what happened. I got an alert on my phone to water the plants, and then when I went to water the plants, I was looking at this plant and I was like, oh, I should like do something about it. And now I've gotten myself into this whole propagation thing, and the plant is out now. I can't just put it away. So I'm gonna do the plant stuff first. Then I will get back to writing. I'm also doing some, like, I can't really talk too much about it, but I have to like read submissions essentially. So I still have to do that. I'm pretty much gonna be doing that for the first 2 weeks of July, going through those. So I also have to do those in the afternoon. So I'm supposed to be working on outlining in the morning and doing that in the afternoon. I might have to take a shorter lunch in order to accomplish this because of the plant stuff, but we're gonna get it done. It's gonna happen. Everything's gonna be okay.
Got this song up inside of me, in a world I don't wanna say. Just the same damn thing. What's your height, what's your age, what's the price of your way? And every year we're expected to show all the things that we were able to grow. When you're making half the money but the cost is double. Quiet life of desperation, but it ain't gonna make me too much longer. Been working too hard for this shit to not pop, so we about to get it poppin' now. Quiet life of desperation, so I'ma have to live a little louder.
Hello. It is Tuesday, and it's a very special Tuesday because my adult thriller is officially on submission. I feel like I've been saying for multiple vlogs, like, maybe now, maybe now, maybe now, maybe now. And it kept not happening, but now it is on submission. It is out to editors, and I'm very excited. Like, I'm just happy to have gotten to this point. I'm happy to be like, okay, it's actually like out there now, and anything could happen. Anything could happen. And in the past, I've always, like, when I've gone on like submission, I've been like, and now I just won't talk about it ever, and then you'll just hear an announcement. And I'm dispensing with that. I'm not going to do it anymore. I think that there's nothing wrong with me saying, oh, sub is going well, or sub isn't going well, or, you know, or like sub is hard, or I'm having a tough time, or like whatever, as long as I'm not saying the specifics of like blah 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 this editor or blah 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 that editor, which I of course would never do. So this actually will not be the last time you hear about this book or submission, because yeah, I'll do little, I guess, like vague updates, just kind of saying how things are going or what have you. So I'm excited to do that, just because I realized that it like got very silly. I just realized that like I can't think of a situation in which like saying submission is hard right now, or saying things are going positively or things are going well. I just like don't see any scenario in which an editor would be upset by that. So yeah, so I feel like there's no problem saying those sorts of things very vaguely. So that is the point at which I'm at. I'm very, very excited. It's great to have the potential and to think about what could happen, while not putting like pressure on myself or like expectations or anything. Just like, now it's out there, it's open, and we'll see what happens. This is also my first time being on like submission to multiple publishers since the very first time I went on submission with my debut novel. And so that's also kind of exciting. I mean, minus A Mastery of Monsters going on UK submission, that's the only difference, but it feels a little bit different to like be trying to sell like a subright versus like selling a book like wholesale, if that makes sense. So it feels like a different experience. So I'm very excited. My agent gave me the submission list, so I've already been doing, you know, my little like peeking around research and like seeing who's worked on what book or that sort of thing, because you're naturally curious about these things, and so I've been doing a little bit of that, a little bit of poking around, which has been like fun and exciting for me. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to seeing what happens. Fingers crossed that we sell the book, and you all will get to read it after this like whole long journey. That's definitely the hope. but we will see. What happens, happens. And I've told myself very strictly, because I have a habit of like trying to do stuff and like predict the future and blah, 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 blah. So I've told myself I'm not going to try and do like a replacement adult project until this project has been on submission for 6 months. So after 6 months of submission for this project, that's when I can kind of be like, okay, maybe let me start working on a different adult project to put on submission, because by the time I like finish that and have it ready for submission, the other project will have been on submission for like a year, and at that point I can kind of be like, okay, let's just try with something new. So I'm telling myself to wait that period of time so that I can like take it easy. I can focus on the Mastery Monsters sequel, that sort of thing. And of course this is different with like I have free time and I'm bored and I want to work on a project, or I want to like fiddle around with it. Like that's different. Of course I'll allow myself to do that. But I'm really just trying to avoid me kind of getting into a panic and trying to like pre-prepare stuff based on like, if it goes this way then I'll have this, and if it goes this way I'll have that. Like I just don't want to utilize time and energy doing that. So that's why I've kind of set this kind of 6-month thing for myself. But yeah, I'm very much just like, I'm just super pleased that it's finally on submission. So I'm very glad about that. And then in terms of the sequel to A Mastery Monsters and the plotting is going much like I'm being much more productive with plotting now. So I've been making my little daily list of things to do, and I've actually been doing it, which is important. So that's been good. I've been working on a lot of like, there's a lot of like kind of like behind the scenes stuff happening. And so like, and like lots of people like working. It's just because of like the fantasy element and like the secret society element. There's just like a lot of like politics and that sort of thing involved, and so everyone has their own kind of little agenda and like things they're working on in the background. And so mostly this week I've been working on that portion of like kind of getting those things planned out, which is a little bit complicated because, you know, these are things that my main character is not necessarily going to be aware of, and so it's the sort of thing where I'm writing out very much in detail everything that is going on, with the understanding that like some of those things are just not going to be super obvious on page. Like I might write out a whole thing about what a character is thinking, and then on page in that moment it's going to be something like way more subtle. But this is all for the purposes of like having the building blocks, and especially when I think about like getting to the third book, where a lot of these things are going to be revealed. Like you're going to get some of them in the second book, like there's a little taste of them in the first book, you're getting more in the second book, and then the third book is like all of these things are gonna start coming out. And so I'm really just like putting in building blocks and putting in mentions and references and that sort of thing in order to help with that. So that's what I've been working on. I also keep needing to add like character arcs. Like I keep having characters where I'm like, oh, I don't need to like plan out a full arc for them, but then they have this like secretive role, and then I'm like, oh no, but I do. But in fact I do. So pretty much from like today onwards, like the rest of the week, today's Tuesday, as I said, and so the rest of the week is probably going to be me working through all the character arc planning, which is going to take a long time. But once I have all those character arcs planned out, on top of like all of those like behind the scenes things, I think the only thing I need to kind of iron out is there's like a mystery subplot, and I was very vague about it. And so I was vague about some other subplots too, because I wanted to like connect all the character arc things first. And so I think that's when the story and the plotting will really feel like it's come together in a more solid way. I do also think I'm probably going to need to add chapters. I know I wanted to draft it to be 100,000 words, but I kind of think that I might have to draft it just to be a little bit more. I might have to give myself like 110, 120, just to make sure that everything that needs to get in is getting in. And to me, I kind of had a conversation with myself and I was like, it doesn't make sense for me to not do chapters knowing that like I'm losing out on like character arcs or developments or world building things that do need to be put into the book to try and reach like an arbitrary word count, because at the end of the day probably my editor is going to comment on it and that's how I'm going to end up adding chapters anyhow, so I may as well add everything that I think is necessary and then I can kind of like give myself some working space from there. So that's kind of my plan. That's what I'm doing. I'm trucking away. I still have a little bit of summer lack of motivation, but I've just been like forcing myself through it because again, I need to get this book plotted by the end of this month. So it doesn't matter if I feel lazy, I need to get things done. So that's what I've been doing.
Gonna end up like the man trying to figure out the man who got it figured out. I just buy me a new condo, and in the same year move back home. Guess your 20s ain't as friendly as a place where you were born. And anytime you reach for something, they claim that you need nothing to satisfy your soul, but all the good stuff's bought and sold. Quiet life of desperation, but it ain't gonna make me too much longer. Been working too hard for this shit to not pop, so we about to get it poppin' now. Quiet life of desperation, so I'ma have to live a little louder. And no, I ain't gonna end up like the man trying to figure out the man who got it figured out. Say soon is my new favorite joke, and they got more options.
Thought I would do a plant update for anyone who cares about my plant journey after I, in the beginning of this video, did this whole thing about my plants. So if you care about them, I'm gonna just give you a little update on them. Here is the pothos, the one that was like so big that it was trailing and I clipped it right down. So it's looking good. It's doing well so far. Like over here, we already have like some new leaves coming through, which I'm really excited about. And then my various propagations are doing good. So you can see there's some roots growing there already. These guys have some roots too. So they're doing well, which is great. I also gave a bunch of them, my regular plants, I gave them some plant food that I bought, which I think is doing some stuff already. I don't know. My money tree over here is certainly doing better for me watering it more regularly. I do want to get it into a bigger pot because I feel like it's growing very tall and I could get more out of it if I put it into a bigger pot. And then I also potted my monstera. So I got it in this big pot here. And I got these like moss sticks or whatever. So it seems like it's doing all right. I'm not sure if like this is something getting ready to come out of it or like what's going on there. But I also gave it a bunch of the plant food, so hopefully it'll do better. Not that it's doing bad right now, I just mean like hopefully it'll grow a little bit more. But that's my update. I do feel like, even though at the time I was a little bit worried about cutting back that plant because it was so long and it was my most impressive plant, but yeah, like so many of those like branches were just like, they were boneless. And so I feel like this is much better. I'm excited about like, you know, starting over in this way and like getting to put it back in the main plant. I have a little schedule for myself to make sure that I'm actually watering all the plants regularly. And I have that, it's like a shake and feed is what I got to help out the plants and like give them a bit of a boost. So I'm hopeful that maybe doing that will help them out and I'll start getting like better results, because I was like, my plants are living, but I'd like it if they were thriving, if they were really like big and lush and that sort of thing. So I'm trying to be better about it.
Got this song up inside of me, in a world I don't wanna say, just the same damn thing. What's your height, what's your age, what's the price of your weight? And every year we're expected to show all the things that we were able to grow. When you're making half the money, but the cost is double.
Checking in just kind of the day before I'm going to be heading off to Toronto. I'm going to be doing a little bit of like a working holiday over there. I'm going to continue working on my plotting and all of that, but also do a little bit of visiting with friends and family. So that'll be really good. And I'm going to be there from Wednesday through to Sunday. So I'll get like a good chunk of visiting time, which is exciting. Some of my family I haven't seen in a very long time, just because like the last couple times we've been able to go down near the city, like just things didn't work out to see them. So I'm excited about that. But otherwise, writing wise, I am continuing with plotting this sequel. It's going pretty well. I feel like I've kind of hit a good stride. I think it's also helpful that the kind of reading I was having to do separate from this, I was able to finish that up. And so that like took away a lot of time in that I had more time to focus on my plotting. But yeah, right now I'm basically kind of just like in character arc stage. So at this point, like the subplots are like roughly planned, and like most of the book is roughly planned. And what I'm just kind of going through now is like going through all of the different characters and like planning out their full arc. So I'm deciding kind of like what they're struggling with at the start, where I want them to be at the end, what kind of like midpoint I'm deciding for them. And just kind of wanting to get that squared away, because that will also help me with figuring out chapters as well, and like what else it should incorporate, and if I need like more chapters to create more of those interactions with the characters, or less chapters, or what have you. And so far, actually, because I thought I was gonna like add a bunch of chapters to this and like need all of that, but I think what I'm discovering so far is I actually don't think I do. I think I'm gonna be good with the chapters that I kind of already have set out. So that's positive. I'm also already like planning ahead to drafting. I do think I will actually follow through with doing 2,000 word chapters, just as a baseline to start from, because I feel like if I start with 2,300 chapters, that was like assuming that I'd add like 200 words and like editing, but I feel like it's much more likely that I would add like 500 words in editing. So I'm gonna aim for 2,000 word chapters, because I think that will kind of like get me really tight, so that I'm putting into the chapter the really only the absolute necessary things, and then from there I can add and embellish and whatever when I edit. So I'm also kind of keeping that in mind when I'm planning chapters and how many chapters there will be, just kind of like figuring out like how much can a chapter like reasonably contain. So we'll see. But yes, I'm doing character arcs. I'm also doing the like character relationship stuff, which is fun, because I'm like pre-planning like what will be like the cute moments, and like what will be like the moments of like tension and things like that, and like putting those in ahead of time, in sort of like making sure that I'm hitting on that romance stuff and those kind of like romantic beats and all of that. I do need to actually, I'm thinking now I do need to go in and add in a little bit more B-plotty things to it as well. And I'm gonna have to do that. Yeah, for sure. I will have to do that actually. But anyway, so that's how things are going plotting wise, and I feel like it's going well. I think it all still feels really rough. Like I'm doing like the roughest version of this, but I've already kind of told myself that I'm gonna be doing that for the next little bit. Like probably all of this week is gonna be more of that rough planning out, and then that last week, which is next week, of doing the plotting is where I'm gonna really try and get everything like precise and down and detailed. I'm gonna be going through every single level of every single chapter to kind of just be like, okay, do I have everything like squared away in a very succinct way? Does everything make sense? Like I'm gonna do that very, very detailed like polishing up of it. And I think that will help a lot. And I think that's when the book, the planning will start to feel a little bit more solid, because right now it definitely feels a little bit like all over the place piecemeal, but it will eventually come together in a whole. That's just kind of how this plotting that I do works. It does like start out very piecemeal and then it kind of comes together. So I'm looking forward to that. But otherwise, yeah, I'm excited to get out to Toronto, have a little bit of like a change of scenery. I'm also hoping that maybe I can get out to like a couple cafes or something to do some writing there, just because I'm staying in my family house and there's like visitors and stuff and there's not really enough rooms for me. Like I'm gonna be couch surfing and so like I just know there's not gonna be like a dedicated quiet sort of writing area, and so it'll be nice to kind of get out to somewhere separate and like have that, because I'm not usually like a cafe sort of girl. I like to stay in my environment, but I think this will be a very good occasion to take more advantage of that.
Are we friends now? Are we friends now? Are you just broke? Are you just broke? Are you just broke? Quiet life of desperation, but it ain't gonna be me too much longer. Been working too hard for this shit to not pop, so we about to get it poppin' now. Quiet life of desperation, so I'ma have to live a little louder. No, I ain't gonna end up like the man trying to figure out.
I am back from Toronto, and as you have seen, or perhaps not seen, I did not do a good job vlogging while I was there. Yeah, it was a lot of me sitting in my family's like living room, working on writing or doing things, and then the like I went to see a friend, but she has like kids. Again, I don't really like getting other people in the filming thing, because I don't know, I find it very invasive. And then the one day that I like went downtown Toronto, I had a very strange anxiety thing. I won't even get into it, but I was just like, I kept thinking that I couldn't breathe. It was just a whole thing. And so I didn't really film anything because I was preoccupied with trying to breathe. Even though, again, nothing was wrong. That's why I say it was an anxiety thing. Like, truly nothing was wrong physically with me. And after I talked myself through it a few times, I was fine. But I don't know, it was so strange. I don't know if it was just because I like was traveling and I haven't like traveled / flown anywhere in a while. It was just like, it was incredibly strange and unpleasant, but I'm through it and I'm home now, and I'm going to share with you this final update before I wrap up the vlog. So I was able to finish plotting the second book in the A Mastery of Monsters trilogy. So I'm very excited about that. I also was able to finish a day earlier than I had planned. So I have a little bit more time off, which is nice. I have like, I'm going to take like a week and a half off. I'm going to start drafting after the August long weekend, which you will see in the August vlog. But yeah, I just wanted to give myself a little bit of a break between plotting and drafting so I could kind of like calm down from it. But anyway, plotting wise, I'm very happy with everything, with where everything has landed. I feel like for most of the time that I was plotting this, because I kept doing such rough plotting and doing a lot of like placeholder dropping and that sort of thing, I felt like for most of this process I was like, what am I even writing? Like, what is this book? It just like felt like such a like bits and pieces thing. Like I felt like I didn't have like a coherent idea of like what the book was encompassing beyond the fact that I was gonna have this like one-on-one competition thing. And I felt like all of the mysteries and stuff that I had planned out because I hadn't planned out the details of them really right until around the end. I kept being like, what is this? And like, what is happening? And I don't know, it just felt so piecemeal and like it wasn't anything solid. But in like this week and like a little bit of last week when I was in Toronto, like as I've solidified everything and like added details to all of this stuff and like gotten to this point now where it's fully plotted, now I'm like, okay, I can see the whole story now. I can see it because there's that main thread of this one-on-one competition, but there's also kind of a mystery of trying to find out something about a character. I'm trying to be vague about it because I'm talking about the second book in a series where the first book hasn't even come out yet. But like, you know, a mystery around trying to find a character. There are several characters that are doing kind of planning and manipulation things in the background, and so like trying to make sure those things come through, and then also like getting the character arcs of every one of the characters, like to make sure that they are having like a full journey throughout the book, plus doing some like additional world building things, plus setting up for the third book, plus trying to wrap up some things from the second book, and just like bringing that all together. Yeah, so now it feels like, okay, I have it, I know what I'm gonna do, and I'm just really pleased with how everything is going together. I feel like I have a really good place to start drafting. And I did decide to stick with drafting to do my usual 2,000 words a day. I had a short period where I was like, should I do like 4,000 words a day so I can get it finished sooner so that I can spend more time doing a self-edit? And I just decided that that was not for me. That I was not going to enjoy that. And I know I wouldn't enjoy that because like writing 2,000 words a day to me is like my threshold of like drafting and like doing really good quality drafting, especially knowing that I have to keep it up for a long period of time. I have to keep going for a while. And so to me, it's like, it's just enough. It's like a good solid amount, and those 2,000 words is like one chapter per day. So I'm essentially doing one chapter per day. I've planned out 51 chapters, and that includes an epilogue. So yeah, it's gonna basically be kind of like 51 days of work spread out over several weekdays because I don't work on weekends, etc. But I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling good about it, which is what matters. I feel like I have a really strong plan going into it. And so I'm not focusing on like feeling like I don't have it planned properly. Instead, I'm like, okay, I just need to focus on the drafting and the craft and like putting everything together in like a fun, entertaining way and like getting back into the headspace of the character. It's also been helpful in this plotting because while plotting, I realized that some things need to change in the first book. So at the stage that I'm at with the Mastery of Monsters, I still have to do my pass pages, which is kind of like the last stage before publication. And so I'm going to have to make some changes in those past pages. They are going to be like very slight changes in the grand scheme of things, but they are also necessary changes in order for what I have planned for the next book to make sense. So I do need to make them. So probably the arcs won't have those changes in them, very likely. Usually arcs are printed based on like your copy edited version, so there will be some little things, but it'll be pretty like small things, and like one character name, because I realized a character name that I have in the first book is too similar to like a really prominent character that's going to be coming up in the second book, and I don't want to change the prominent character's name because that's his name. Just like he's too prominent. I don't want to change his name. And the other character, her name is a little bit more like, she's more minor of a character, so I'd rather just go back and change her name. So that's what I'm planning to do. And yeah, that's basically kind of everything. I'm just generally feeling good. And also, submission for my adult thriller, The Couples Retreat, has continued, but I have gotten some like, some positive news thus far. No guarantees. no guarantees, but like things are going in a positive direction, which I'm really excited about, especially because it's only been, at this point, I've been on submission about 15 days, something like that. So it is wonderful to get, you know, some sort of positive leaning direction so early on in the process. So yeah, I'm keeping all of my fingers crossed and we will see. But that's really it for everything I have going on. And that's the end of this vlog. So if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Figure out the man who gotta figure it out.